You can waste so much time with it. The first time I got a synthesizer, I don't know what year it was. It's in the early 80s. And I stayed up to 2 in the morning just playing it. Because it had so many sounds.
What is the difference between the keyboards and the synthesizers?
It's the same names. Some synthesizers you can record sounds and then play back. Some can play back sequences that you record. This is really more for beginners, kids.
I've never seen something that it's on waves. You do like this and you play?
With your hand?
Yeah. I saw a video.
I might have seen it. Okay. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prasthaya, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami, Namaste Saraswati Devi, Nirvani Pascha. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I'm going to read some things that we can discuss. This is a lecture Prabhupada gave. Lecture Prabhupada gave in London in 1975. Another defect is vinchana, or cheating. I am so much defective. Still, I want to impress others that I have got full knowledge. You can have full knowledge if you are so defective. This is one definition Prabhupada gives of cheating. So there was a professor. Prabhupada met a professor of Hinduism. So Prabhupada was playing with this professor. And he said to the professor, "So, what is Hinduism?" And the professor of Hinduism said, "That's a difficult question to answer." And then Sri Damodar Maharaj was there. Sri Damodar Maharaj was among the first devotees to engage in scientific preaching. So he turned to Sri Damodar Maharaj and he said, "Sri Damodar," I think he was at Brahmacharya at the time, "Sri Damodar, Professor so-and-so teaches Hinduism, but he says he doesn't understand what Hinduism is." And Prabhupada said, "Sri Damodar, what's that called?" Sri Damodar said, "Cheating, Srila Prabhupada." And Prabhupada turns to him and says, "He's called you a cheater. What do you have to say for yourself?" So, to talk about something as if you know it, but you don't know it, that's Prabhupada's one definition of cheating. One time I heard Prabhupada talking, he said, these professors who propose to know something that don't, he said, they should just buy some land and grow food, because that would be useful for society. But what they're doing is not useful, because they're misleading people. And Prabhupada used to say, well, they say could be, maybe, perhaps. And he said, we don't say that. Because we have Krishna's words. So we don't say maybe, perhaps, it could be. We know. Then Gandhi, I think he had written a book, something like In Search of the Truth. And Prabhupada said, you don't search for it, either you have it or you don't. So it was another criticism. If you're searching for it, it means you don't have it. Right? This is from Madhya Lila. Sometimes a Sahajya presents himself as being void of desires for reputation. He's trying to show off that he has no desire. I just want all of you to know that I have no desires. Everybody get that? Sometimes the Sahajya presents himself as being void of desires for reputation in order to become famous as a humble man. Such people cannot actually attain the platform of celebrated Vaishnava. So that we've been talking about this funny paradox. I'm going to become famous as being humble. Think about that one. The Prabhupada's saying there are people doing that. And apparently this was quite common. I mean, it's common today in India. It seems like it was more common in those days. Because you could become famous for being a sadhu, and people would worship you. So it seems there were a lot of people doing that. It's a good business, plus you get a lot of glorification. I was flying to Bangalore a few years ago, and I was in the magazine on the airplane. There was a picture of this guy. And as soon as I looked at his picture, he was sitting on a Vyasasana, in his 30s, really attractive, big turban, like kind of bare-chested. As soon as I looked at him, I said, no. What? Yeah, too perfect, a little too perfect. I looked at him and I said, no, this guy's not for real. So I looked him up online, and he was giving a whole talk on brahmacharya. And I thought, this is a mechanism, smoke screen. You know what a smoke screen? You know smoke screen? To deceive people. You talk about something which is exactly the opposite of what you are to make people think you're like that. So he was talking about celibacy. And then there was a big scandal that he had an affair with a movie star. So that's the kind of thing Prabhupada's talking about. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote a book called Vaishnava K. What kind of Vaishnava am I? And describing all this duplicity that is seen in the so-called world of Vaishnavas, where they engage in bhajan for name and fame, to be honored as a sadhu. Translation. This is from the Madhya Lila. Some unnecessary creepers growing with the bhakti creeper are the creepers of behavior unacceptable for those trying to attain perfection. Diplomatic behavior, animal killing, mundane profiteering, mundane adoration, and mundane importance. All these are unwanted creepers. Purport. This is a sample from the purport. Adoration by mundane people is valueless because after death, one has to accept another body. You know what they say? You might be like really well known, but after you die, after a certain period of time, like maybe maximum you'll be known 50, 100 years. Right? We sell books and we say, well, George Harrison might sell books using, but at a certain point, people are going to say, who's that? Do they say that now? Do they?
Maybe.
George Harrison was so popular that he told the devotee when he came to India, there's only 2 countries in the world where people don't know me. And that India was one of them. So he liked to go where they didn't know him. But after a while, material adoration and titles are decorations that cannot be carried to the next body. In the next life, everything is forgotten. This next one is from lecture 1966. This is interesting. It's interesting to see what Prabhupada was talking about in 1966, because he really didn't have a movement. He just had a few hippies in a storefront. So I find it, at least I find it interesting to see what he was talking about. You find it interesting or no? Maybe at heart I'm a professor, so I analyze everything. What is this mighty labha? Labha is greed. Puja, to be worshipped. Pratishta, to be honored. These material assets are 3. Something I want, some gain out of my work, profit, and puja. Puja means people will adore me. Oh, you're such a rich man. You're so great. Labha, puja, pratishta. Pratishta is fame. People may know me, that I am Carnegie, I am Rockefeller, I am Birla. But he does not know that Birla or Rockefeller is this body. As soon as the body is finished, all Birla or Rockefeller is finished. Then I do not know whether I'm entering into a cat or a dog. Because after finishing this body, you are neither Birla, neither Rockefeller. You are spirit soul. And according to your own karma, according to your own work, you have to enter another body, which is different from Birla and Carnegie. So sometimes Prabhupada said, that, I don't know if it's true, but he said he had heard that an astrologer said that Nehru was the first prime minister after India, was independent. He said Nehru took birth as a dog in Sweden. That's what some astrologer says. So, you see what Prabhupada's saying here. You may acquire wealth and prestige in this life, but you're not even thinking about the next thing you don't know. And then you're, what are you, a dog in Sweden? Wow. You put all your energy in becoming famous and you become a dog in Sweden. Hare Krishna. This is interesting. This is from Bhagavad Gita, but it's interesting because when we take a topic, we're looking at it, this like pretentious cheating. And then we go to Bhagavad Gita and we find also described there, maybe we overlooked it when we read the Gita. Instead of becoming a pseudo-transcendentalist for the sake of wanton living and sense enjoyment. You know, understand wanton? I don't even understand what that is. Wanton, like luxurious. Instead of becoming a pseudo-transcendentalist for the sake of wanton living and sense enjoyment, it's far better to remain in one's own business and execute the purpose of life, which is to get free from material bondage. and enter into the kingdom of God. The goal of self-interest is Vishnu. Varnashram is meant to help us reach that goal. A householder can reach that by regulated service. Like, you know this story? You all know the story of Junior Haridas. He was rejected by Lord Chaitanya. He went begging, and he begged at the house of a woman. I think was old enough to be his mother or grandmother. But in order to set an example, Lord Chaitanya said, "You're a sannyasi," and he lusted after a woman. And then Junior Haridas killed himself. And Prabhupada was describing the story, and he said that Shivananda Sen, I think the story was, he had brought his pregnant wife to Lord Chaitanya and said, "Can you give this child a name?" And Lord Chaitanya gave him a name. So he rejected the sannyasi for what didn't seem really to be an offense or nothing that wrong. And then he's allowing Shivananda Sen's wife, pregnant, to be with Lord Chaitanya, connected. So Prabhupada said, you have to act according to the ashram you're in. So, what was considered very bad for a sannyasi would not be bad for a grihastha. So that was another thing Prabhupada said, cheating. Like, don't try to be something you're not, because then you're cheating. Just be what you are. Not that too much to ask? Be who you are instead of who you're not? For self-realization, one can live a controlled life and continue carrying out his business without attachment and make progress. A sincere person who follows this method is far better than the false pretender who adopts show-bottle spiritualism to cheat the innocent public. And this famous statement you must have heard a million times. A sincere sweeper in the street is far better than the charlatan meditator who meditates only for the sake of making a living. You've heard that before?
But I have a question. When I always hear this statement, I'm wondering if this so-called sincere sweeper is really sincere, because he was not tested.
He was not.
He was not tested in the sense that when you are a sweeper, so you have nothing to be proud of. And if we will make a kind of experiment and take this sweeper to a higher position, we don't know if he will be still so sincere. So I believe that, our sincerity has to be tested in the sense that when we are like achieving higher position and then we are still...
But according to Varnashram, he wouldn't achieve a higher position. So he wouldn't be tested. He would stay in it. And the people that would achieve, would be capable of a higher position would be trained for that, and they wouldn't. So that proves Prabhupada's point. Just by saying, if you elevated the street sweeper into something greater than what he is, yeah, maybe he would go to his head. But that's Prabhupada's point. You stay where you're at.
Yeah, but the thing is that in ISKCON, there is no Varnashrama, let's be honest. And the thing is that we are often asked to do things that, are out of our Varna or our Ashrama. So I'm sometimes wondering if we should accept the services that are potentially, dangerous, because they may give us pricing, and we will really enjoy this pricing.
Now you have to decide what your capability is. So there's the story of Nityananda saving Thakur Haridas. The Prabhupada said, in the purport, he said that we can't imitate that, because he could do that. He said, but if you try to do that, I don't know the exact word, but basically it would just be a mess. That's what he said. So he said, you have to assess your capability so you know how much weight you can lift. So I would say that anyone who's been a devotee a long time does that. They don't go far. They don't go out on the edge where it's dangerous. And there's another purport. 9th chapter of the Gita, Prabhupada said, the verse Mahatma Prabhu, I believe. Prabhupada said, a devotee is careful to not put himself in a compromise, put himself in a position where he would compromise his Krishna consciousness in a way that it would compromise his realization. In other words, he's careful to be in a situation where he's always experiencing strength in Krishna consciousness, he's strong, he's having realization. Prabhupada used the word realization. So I think that's important. And if you talk to someone who was doing well in Krishna consciousness and later was not doing well, a lot of times they'll tell you that that's exactly what they did. They were in a weakened position and they tried to act as if they were in a strong position. And also, I have a godbrother who had trouble many, many years ago. And he was in a situation you just described. And he told his leaders, the situation I'm in is destroying me. And they all said, stay in it. And he stayed in it and then he crashed. And he told me if they just would have let me out of that situation, I wouldn't have had a problem. So I think, you have two things going on. You have one, your own sense of what you need to be Krishna conscious, but then you have what is expected of you. And so you have to take both into consideration. Like I want to do this, but I also have to maintain my Krishna consciousness. Someone was telling me that one of my godbrothers, or many of them, they spend like 60-80% of their time with their godbrothers. They have that as part of their lifestyle. They always make sure they'll be with their godbrothers. So that's an example. They have lots of service. They could go all over the world, not spend much time with their godbrothers, but they do that because they need that. So you want to serve the desire of the Vaishnavas of your guru, but at the same time, occasionally this happened with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada just said, don't worry, I'll maintain you. Just do it.
What about the situation that the guru is telling you that I want you to do this service, and he's like that you are the one who can do it, and you are special, and then you are doing it, and everyone is praising you, and then you are thinking, yeah, I'm special.
Yeah, well that's, what I would say is that should just be feedback for you. I mean, you have to reflect on what that means. I mean, a lot of devotees are told they're special, and it doesn't affect them. A lot of devotees are told they're special, and it does. So it's kind of feedback to where we're at, isn't it? And ultimately, you still have to decide if you can handle it or not. But obviously, it'd be better you could handle it.
Is it any healthy way of thinking about ourselves special? Meaning that special in the sense that we are unique and others are also unique.
Well, I can think I'm special, but I have to know where the speciality comes from. Because false ego means the speciality comes from me. Real ego means it comes from Krishna. So when you think it comes from you, you're in trouble. So if someone's praising you and you say, it's Krishna's mercy that I can do this, it's a gift and I recognize it, then it won't affect you so much. But if you want to, see, the false ego wants to take credit. That's the problem. It's like...
But often it's a kind of self-deception because externally we may say, yes, that's Guru's mercy, that's Krishna's mercy, but inside there is little...
That's the politically correct thing to say, it's Krishna's mercy. But then that's for you to reflect on. But I would say No, at least my experience. False ego wants to take credit. So that's why it's hard to be humble when we're being praised, because we all want to be praised. And so finally, we're waiting days, weeks, months, years to be praised. And finally when we get it, it's hard to say, oh, it's just Krishna's mercy. Until you're very advanced. Because when you're very advanced, you don't want it. You don't care. So it's very easy to say it's Krishna's mercy if you don't need it. It's like, you just ate and there's all this delicious prasadam. It's easy to say, no, thank you. And you look very renounced. So if you're more full in yourself, because we talked about it yesterday, how you don't need a specific situation to make you proud. It's if you want to be proud, it's practically any situation. We were joking, just get a new sari and walk around. New kurta, new necklace, new earrings. My earrings, no one in Mayapur has earrings like this. I'm walking, pull my hair back. You get your Rolex. If I had a Rolex watch, I'd have to, roll my sleeve up and talk like this. So if I had a Casio watch and I was doing some work in the corporate and the devotee gave me his watch. He said, you can't wear your Casio. And I like my Casio. Tells the same time as a Rolex. So if you're interested in pride, then wherever there's an opportunity to get it, you'll get it, you'll take it. And if you're not, then it doesn't matter how much you get. It's not going to bother you. So this is just feedback. Like life is there's so many things that come to us. It's just feedback, and then we see, okay, what's going on inside? How am I reacting? Why do I feel this way? When my head knows one thing, and then we reflect. Okay, why do I need the recognition? What need am I trying to meet? Whatever you want to think about it. But I can relate my personal experience is that, at least for me, the more I'm self-accepting, and this is what I am and this is what I am not, and seeing how I can use what I am in Krishna service and not lament or regret what I can't do, then it's like I'm happy in my service, and the praise that I need is just my own recognition that I'm trying to sincerely serve. And obviously people will give you feedback, they like what you're doing, but still, it's not essential to be inspired. You're just inspired by getting mercy. That's the greatest satisfaction, is to get the mercy of the Guru for pleasing him, much more than getting praise. Although, it's always nice to be praised. It's encouraging to know that our Guru is happy and devotees are happy. But that's different than being praised out of false ego. Like if your Guru says that you did nice service, that's encouraging. You know I should continue. He's happy. I'm happy that he's happy. But if I become proud, oh, I'm better than all the other disciples, if he doesn't praise you, then you've taken the praise in a very Tamasic way, and then it's counteracted, and instead of the praise inspiring you, it's puffing you up. The Prabhupada praised us a lot, like all the time. And we took it more as inspiration than becoming proud. Prabhupada praised me, didn't praise you, so wash my feet, Prabhu. We didn't take it like that. At least tried not to. We took it as encouragement. So that's how I would take it. And then,
should a disciple ask for feedback
from his Guru?
Yes.
Can. Some do.
Because I know devotees
Some don't.
who were doing lots of service, and they were always afraid to ask for feedback, and they didn't get anything, and they felt very discouraged.
Because they didn't get feedback. They felt discouraged because they didn't get feedback?
Because they didn't get any feedback.
Yeah,
And they, at the same time, they were it was awkward for them to ask, and they didn't do it, but for sure the Guru was pleased, but he never said it. And after sometimes they felt discouraged to the point that they gave up Krishna consciousness or gave up the service.
But, how's a Guru going to praise, every disciple? That's hard. But if those disciples are sincerely serving, they should know. Like that question was asked to Prabhupada. It says, Prabhupada, how do we know you're pleased? How do you know we're pleasing you? He said, I asked the temple president. You know, something like that. Or you know when you're pleasing the Guru, you can feel that because you feel stronger, you feel mercy. I think everyone who's done some austerity and service, has done book distribution, so many things in the preaching, you feel something. So you know your Guru is pleased. It's nice if he tells you. But also you have other devotees, they don't want to be told. They say, you know, thank you for doing this, don't thank me, that's all your mercy. So everybody's different. But I think it's important for devotees to recognize that if they're sincerely serving and they're feeling, they should feel a reciprocation through their spiritual advancement. So if they're discouraged, and it's more, to me, it's more of a material consideration, like an emotional need that's not being satisfied. I mean, look at Prabhupada. How many of us talked to him personally, and Prabhupada said he only saw his spiritual master a few times, maybe 7 times or something. And look what Prabhupada says. Radhanath Swami is saying, there's very few. A lot of our gurus did not have much association with Prabhupada.
But some devotees giving this argument that we should not even compare like the time of Prabhupada to the time right now, that you were completely different people, and right now
That may
the
be
needs
true.
of the people and the needs of the cycle itself is different, and they really need this feeling that they are worthy for the Guru.
In some cases it's true, but in some cases it may be true. But the principle of what I said, of pleasing the spiritual master and getting mercy from Krishna, that's the eternal principle. I mean, I think it's logistically, you know, if someone's not serving so much with the Guru, or there's thousands of disciples serving with the Guru, just the Las Vegas odds of you being picked out and praised are kind of low, you know. So, but you know, one thing you could say, at least this is the way I always thought, if Prabhupada doesn't chastise me, then he's pleased. If he wasn't pleased, he would tell me. So that's one way. I got chastised, but it wasn't a letter. Well, actually, it was funny because Prabhupada dictates the letter, and so the servant told me what Prabhupada said. The letter was lighter than what Prabhupada told me. But I got chastised, and I thought, yeah, I deserve it. That's how I thought. I just thought I asked a stupid question, or I wanted to do something stupid, and Prabhupada told me that I was a rascal for doing that, and I thought, okay, you know, like I needed to hear that. You know? Sometimes Prabhupada will say something that's really, really heavy, just like, oh my God. And there's 2 reactions. One reaction is, wow, that's heavy, I don't know if I can take it. The other reaction is, I need that, because I'm in Maya, or I can any moment be in Maya, so I need that boom, boom, boom. So a lot of times, last week I heard one of the heaviest things Prabhupada ever said. It's just like, it was so heavy, but it was so powerful, just cutting out attachment. And you know, we say, well, modern ISKCON's different. That's true. But the thing is, the things Prabhupada said, he said them, they're there. So we can't take them back.
But it's different to hear it, what Prabhupada said to the other person, and it would be like different to hear it from your own. I mean, like Prabhupada sometimes were like saying, yeah, you are like full number 1, like my guru experience.
Yeah.
Yes, that he was like doing service for a month, and he was so tired that at the class he was just falling in sleep, and Prabhupada said, what's your name? And then he said, you are the fool number one. I imagine myself in this situation when I will just, leave and shut the door.
Anyway, that's, I would say,
Being honest.
I would say that's for you to examine. At least you recognize you do that, so then you have to examine why. But, when Prabhupada was asked how a disciple takes chastisement, he gave an amazing answer. And I think the answer is also coming from a different culture. And basically what Prabhupada was saying, there's so many disciples, I'm taking time right now to talk to you. I'm chastising you. But the disciple's supposed to think, there's so many disciples and my spiritual master's taking time to correct me.
It means that he cares.
Yeah, exactly. Like Bhaktivedanta Purna Swami said something really funny, but it's true. So one man was complaining to him about his wife, how his wife was always complaining, you should do this, you should do that, do this better. And Bhaktivedanta Purna Swami said, at least she hasn't given up on you, because when she gives up on you, she stops complaining. So she has hope for you. So see it positively. So a similar thing, Prabhupada's chastising, he has hope for you. He's taking time out to chastise you, thinking that you'll, you can benefit from it. And I think, as far as I could say, I think that's how we always took it. We never took it. How dare you say that to me? Don't you know you're talking to me? My father was a lawyer. I was raised in a wealthy neighborhood. I went to the best university. You can't speak like that. No, we never thought like that.
But let's say, like in the situation Guru had, it would be okay.
He had an excuse. He had an excuse for being
He had an
taxed.
excuse, so is a disciple have right to, explain the situation. Let's say that later he will go to Prabhupada and say, Prabhupada, I'm sorry, but I was trying to sleep because I was sending your books
He
for
could.
like 3 months and I'm so tired.
He could, but I don't recommend it, at least with Prabhupada. I mean, if you're Prabhupada's personal servant and you do, and he's wondering why you didn't do that, and say, well, last night I only slept 2 hours and I couldn't. I was falling asleep at the typewriter box. I said, okay, take rest. But in general, even if you're right, I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, if you're doing ongoing service with your guru, yeah, then you'll have to negotiate something. Or if you failed in some way, you want to explain it. You were expecting me to do this, but I couldn't because my mother was very ill and I was up all night on the phone. Sure. Obviously, like you say, the dynamics today are a little different, but I wouldn't say completely different. They are different, and I don't think any guru thinks he's entitled to act like Prabhupada. But at the same time, there is a guru-disciple, there is a guru-disciple etiquette. There was a story, devotees, I think it was in the Ganga or Jamuna, I forget where, and they were playing, and they were splashing, and Prabhupada was laughing, and then Prabhupada came in and they started splashing him, like, water fight splashing. And Prabhupada said, don't get too familiar with your guru. They're all having fun and Prabhupada was having fun. So it was like he was becoming one of them and then you have to have that. You have to have that respect. Not that the guru wants it, but just for your own good. So even, sometimes even though maybe the guru said something, you think, well, what he said really, he didn't understand my situation, but just out of etiquette, you don't necessarily need to say anything because it doesn't really matter. If it doesn't matter, then why say it? The other thing you see is sometimes people wrote letters to Prabhupada, or asked him questions in a way that they kind of forced him to answer in a certain way. And he kind of went along with it because he kind of saw that's what they wanted, but not necessarily what he wanted. He may not have wanted it, but they wanted it and they pushed it. It's like they asked Prabhupada, you gave sannyas to so many men and so many fell down, why did you give them? He said, I didn't give them, they forced me. I didn't want to give them, they forced me, they pushed me. So, Obviously not in every case, but in many cases that was the Prabhupada just, I was a young devotee and I was frustrated in married life and I wanted to take sannyasa, and Prabhupada said, take Vanaprast. I was like 24, take Vanaprast. My son was 1 year old. Take Vanaprast. That's like crazy. So Prabhupada meant, all right, don't have more children. But I forced that. I was like, it was bothering him. I wrote my 2 letters about it. So sometimes the group's like, okay, whatever. Don't bother me. But it's better not to be in that position where you're kind of forcing. And you know the story I tell when there was a painting on the floor, and just sitting on the floor, and painting shouldn't be on the floor. And Prabhupada was walking around the temple and he saw the painting. And his servant was with him, and he turned to his servant and said, "Why is the painting on the floor?" And the servant said something that I would not recommend saying to your guru, although you may have said it to your guru. He said, "I don't know, Prabhupada, it's not my responsibility." Don't say that. Say something, when Prabhupada said that, you know what he meant. Do something about this. That's what he meant. And he's just like, not my responsibility. And Prabhupada said it is too your responsibility. Because obviously Prabhupada wanted him to do something. It's sitting there, and nobody's moving it, so you can move it. So when you're connecting with your guru, you want to get bonus points. So you don't want to do something stupid or say something stupid. Like I think today, I wrote these stupid letters to Prabhupada, just bothering him. 24, I want to take sannyas, I have a 1-year-old son. Like, what kind of craziness is that? And I'm bothering Prabhupada, so when Prabhupada's dealing with me, You don't want to bother your guru, you want to write letters. I just distributed 100 books, I opened 3 temples this year, That's what you want to write. And I bother him with my problem, my stupid, immature problem, craziness. We have problems sometimes, we have to go to our guru. This was really immature, yes.
But that's being honest that you're immature and the guru knows you're immature.
Yeah, but I didn't know it then. I kind of figured it out after a while. But, being immature, but there's also another problem. Thinking you can do something that you can't. I think, I'll take sannyas, no problem. Just walk out on my wife and kid, 24. So that was also part of it. And the Prabhupada didn't think I could do it, so he said no. And he let other people do it, but he didn't let me. So that's part of the problem, thinking you're qualified to do something that you're not. And then you're like going up and down.
But sometimes our decisions seems to be forced, like a social pressure.
Could be.
Because I believe that your question that you want to become a sannyasi probably was also because of this environment in our movement, that there was like a trend to take sannyas. So I believe that many of us also making decisions out of pressure.
But my reflection on that, what you say is true, but my reflection on that is most men did not ask Prabhupada to take sannyas, so it didn't affect most men, but it affected me. So definitely the social environment was pushing it, but not all men were. A lot of men just said, no, I'm not sannyas quality. They were very realistic. I thought I was. Then I got a chance to take sannyas in 1979. So this was 74, and then my wife had left me, and I was like, okay. And my GBC wanted me to take sannyas at the ripe age of 29. Fully mature and ready to renounce.
What happened?
That year, so many sannyasis fell down GDC decided not to give anyone sannyas. And when that happened, I immediately, I said, Krishna, you just saved me because you knew I wasn't qualified. And I just gave up on the idea. That was like, they allowed one person to slip through the cracks because he was special. And he took sannyas. And he didn't make it. There was a whole bunch of us ready to, coming, get our dundas and come back, fire them. Sankirtan. I was a Sankirtan leader, 25 men. Yeah. So we all went over there very enthusiastic, and Krishna saved us. And the one that slipped through the cracks and took sannyas didn't make it. So sometimes, we could say if you're helpless and trying to be sincere, and Krishna will kind of do things, and then you'll understand, oh, okay, I shouldn't go this direction. Because sometimes due to immaturity, we don't know. We make bad choices. I think also when you're young, you don't always know that much about yourself, so you think you can think you can jump off a building and fly or something. Yes.
What about, because these days we have mentors, we have authorities, we have senior devotees. What about receiving different feedback? Opposite feedback. Contradictory, feedback.
What to do?
Yeah, what to do.
Well, one thing you can do is tell the other mentor that you've got different instruction. Can you kind of harmonize these two ideas? Because sometimes instructions are contextual. In one situation it may be valuable, in one situation not. For one person valuable. So you could ask them. Or if you're kind of, what's the word? Tricky, just you would then take the one you like.
That's the best thing.
Which is why you should have two mentors. Because one is bound to give you instruction you like.
But I know devotees who are having a lot of shiksha gurus, and they are writing 10 letters and choosing the best. What they like the best.
I mean, in a sense, it could be healthy because you could ask the different. You say, "I got all these instructions. Could you, make sense out of this for me?" So then you get a broader discussion.
But is it not that we are choosing, especially the shiksha guru,
According to
according to our nature, meaning that my guru likes to eat chocolate. I like to eat chocolate, so I will find a shiksha guru who's eating chocolate or ice cream or whatever.
Yeah. That could be, but that's not the reason you would. But it could be. I can't say a devotee wouldn't choose for the wrong reason. That's a joke, right?
Yeah.
What if I don't want to eat chocolate? Oh, find a guru that eats chocolate. What if I want to do this? Find a guru who does that. Having a guru sometimes is difficult because he'll tell you to do something that you don't want, or tell you to do something that doesn't make sense to you.
But still, it looks like we are finding a guru who's, I don't know if it sounds okay, but it's similar to us, meaning that the vibes are the same.
Yeah, Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that. It's interesting. Because generally it said, find a spiritual master who knows the truth. This is his qualification. He knows it, he lives it, and he can teach you. Those are the three qualifications. So, Prabhupada said, find a bona fide spiritual master. Don't take initiation from a Mayavadi. Don't take initiation from a pseudo-guru. Well, within ISKCON, everybody's bona fide. So that's not the only issue anymore. Right? Well, I have 100 people who know the Siddhanta. And unless I'm a high intellectual and a scholar, then I may want a guru who's who's very, very scholarly because I want to go deep into Siddhanta. But even if that's not your guru, you can still be a Siksha disciple. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, to find a guru that you're compatible with. He just used the word compatible, and I don't remember him explaining. We know what compatible means, but I think it's you hear this guru and it's like, oh yeah, I relate to that. I see it that way, I feel it that way, it makes sense to me. That's good. If your guru is saying things that completely go against your nature, it's going to be really hard. And I've seen devotees like that. They have a guru who thinks much differently than they see things, and it's hard for them. It's like, it's not just philosophy, it's nature. Nature's different. So, but still, no matter what, you can always have Siksha guru. There's another problem. Some people don't think it's a problem, but I do. Most people, when they choose a guru, are young devotees, and they're also young people.
And sometimes we are not.
Yeah, 10 years later, they say, well, if I would have known, then I would have maybe chose someone else. But it's not the ultimate problem, because they'll always get blessings, and whoever that someone else was, you can take as a Siksha guru. But, the philosophy is, disciple is meant to find the guru. Choose. That's the criteria. You decide. But you need some maturity and some knowledge to make those decisions. But also, when you're hearing from that guru, if you're advancing and you're inspired, then that's
This is
good.
not a kind of offense that, let's say we are...
I like this one, don't like that one.
No, we mean that, let's say we took initiation from a guru and we really appreciate him and so on, but our heart is like more to the Shiksha guru, and we still appreciate our Shiksha guru, but it's like a kind of betraying like in our heart.
As long as he's happy, if he's happy with it, and most gurus would be. I mean, we're all one family, so you're serving your uncle, you're serving your father, it's the same business. It's different if your guru depends on you to do things, and you go to your Siksha guru and say, well, I'm not going to serve my guru. No, that wouldn't be good.
What about masowe initiation?
What about the situation when the guru nowadays is giving initiation to like hundreds?
1950.
900.
950.
950 disciples at
Yes.
one initiation.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow, 900.
Hare Krishna.
Fine.
What about it?
Yeah.
We have mixed feelings about
Well-
danger situation sometimes.
For him or for the
For
disciple?
guru. Maybe for disciples also.
You got to be Jai Takamraj to do that. For anybody else, I don't know if you could do it. It might collapse.
maybe it sounds controversial, but I believe that he's a handicapped person, and I'm not sure if they are like taking advantage of him.
Yeah, I mean, he's his disciples,
It's like
God
vulnerable
brothers.
and-
You can't stop him. I think Prabhupada, he said Prabhupada wanted him to have 50,000, so maybe he'll stop after 50.
He said once
50,000?
It's 50? What's he up to now? 40?
Yes, I don't know. Maybe he stopped counting.
No, he has strength. He's just following what Prabhupada said. Once he reached that number, he was
Hare Krishna. You according to what you can digest. I mean, and he's willing to suffer. So it's like Vasudev Datta wanted to suffer. It's like.
But sometimes institutions have pressure to make new devotees to make
satisfactory.
good PR,
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, that is also true. That's another topic for another day. Yes.
В чем зрелость ученика, который ищет гуру или принятие? Какова его квалификация к этой зрелости?
What is qualification if disciple is mature enough to choose guru?
If he's not mature enough, is that
What
the question
qualification required
for the disciple?
for the disciple to choose the proper guru?
Well, I think the first thing you would start with is becoming a qualified disciple. Because before you want to choose a guru, you should be at least qualified to be worthy to choose one. Right? So it starts there. And you can also get help from others, guidance, discuss. I think that in ISKCON, no matter who you choose, you're okay. Sometimes I oscillate. Sometimes I think it doesn't matter because, it's like you come to Mayapur and you hear from so many devotees and your guru's not even here and you're inspired and you just see them like your godbrother of your guru. So we have so much association, right? So in that sense, if your guru doesn't know Rasa Tattva on the level you want to know it, you go somewhere to another guru who can tell you. Or he doesn't know science the level you want to hear it, you go to another. So in that sense, you're safe. But for me personally, this is just my experience with Srila Prabhupada, that what helped me so much, aside from learning, which obviously was tremendously important, was just I just wanted to serve him, like completely dedicate myself to him. So if there's someone that inspires you so much that you spontaneously feel like you just want to serve them, that's really, you're fortunate. I would say that person, it's easy to surrender to that person. And it's all about surrender. So Krishna sent the Guru so we can surrender. So if there's a person you find that you're naturally spontaneously attracted to surrender and serve, I would gravitate towards that person. It could also be a Siksha Guru. It's not only the Diksha Guru. But if you don't have a Diksha Guru, that's an important consideration. And that's why, some devotees might say, well, you're taking initiation, but this guru has 20,000 disciples. Why would you want to do it? And they'll say, because I just want to serve him. I don't care if I see him. I'm just inspired. I can see him on the internet. I can see him once a year. Just look at his picture. I'm inspired. I just want to serve his mission. So that's important. Because if you have that, that's, we're trying to extract this energy from our heart for service. Because that energy is always going to Maya. So we want to extract it, we want to just flow out as easily as it can. And if there's someone that just causes that to flow, then yeah, that's really important. I think. And it's not like he has to know everything. Because you'll learn from other people also. My daughter is taking a deity worship. She's taking deity worship course, right? So I was looking through a book today and I said, Shama, I think you know more about deity worship than I do. She said, yeah, I do. So I said, will you teach me? So I'm going to learn deity worship. She's learning this like massive standard, at the Mayapur, whatever academy. She's learning, everything. I said, what you're learning, because she does deity worship in Alachua. I said, what you're learning, do they do that in Alachua? She goes, no, they don't do that. So she's learning, like she can become a head pujari now. So, sometimes The devotees would ask things about deity worship to Prabhupada, and they'd get very detailed, and he would say, ask my godbrothers. He said, I didn't live in the temple. They're experts in deity worship. So it's not like we lost faith in Prabhupada, the details of deity worship. That wasn't. You get it from someone. That's okay. But there's that person who well, the other thing, I have faith. Faith is important. I trust them. I have faith in what they say. I feel sheltered. I feel sheltered. I feel Krishna conscious when I hear from them. Like that. That's going to be different, different for everybody, how they see it, Like, I remember one devotee was aspiring for Jayapataka Maharaj. And then he wanted to take initiation from me. As temple president said, why would you want to take initiation from him? Because you could take from Jayapataka Maharaj. Which I thought that was kind of funny. True, I thought it was true. Yeah, why would you want to take from me? You take from him. He said, no, I want to take from him. And they had had a debate, and they had to ask Jayapataka Maharaj to get permission. But everyone's individual. Sometimes people ask me, and I think, why would you want to take from me? You could take from him. But it's not about necessarily who's here or who's here or who's here. It's more about, where the inspiration and the faith comes from. Really. I think also, with some gurus, when they speak, it's just like, you start to understand Krishna consciousness in a way you've never understood it. It's just like, wow. This is incredible, what I'm understanding. So that helped that also. I've seen that also. And you feel like, this person's giving me Krishna, like in a way I've never got it before. And then you feel so grateful. You just want to serve. We're all individuals. So, but anyway, you're all good. Whoever you take is good. You don't have to worry about that. But if you take someone that you feel really inspired or connected to, then that makes it easier. You had a question?
Как правильно строить отношения с духовным учителем, с дикши-гуру? Например, если гуру, он приезжает, он рядом, но человек все время стремится быть рядом. Как-то Панкажани Прабhu сказал, что Прабхупада, он говорил, что, ему, что я каждый вечер здесь, и ученики почему-то не приходят на даршан, не слушают.
What is the proper way to develop relationship with your spiritual master? When he comes, we should come to see him, or what is the proper way? Sometimes he heard that sometimes Srila Prabhupada complained that I'm here and no one come for darshan, like this. So what is the
I just read a story. Prabhupada was he was in Bhaktivedanta Manor. I heard this story. He was in Bhaktivedanta Manor. And he was just sitting out, chanting his rounds. And two devotees came back from Sankirtan and they said, wow, Prabhupada's just sitting, there's nobody there, let's go over there. And they just sat down. And then Prabhupada turned to his servant and said, what are they doing? They had no service, they were just sitting here? So, we have both. And then one time Prabhupada came to Los Angeles and usually when Prabhupada came to Los Angeles, a lot of sannyasis would come. And the sannyasis could be with him, morning walks, in his room, in his garden. And so all the sannyasis were there. And Prabhupada said, where's Tripurari Swami? He had just taken sannyas. They said, oh, Prabhupada, he's out doing book distribution. And Prabhupada looked at them and said, he's doing more service than all of you. You're just like sitting here with me. So there's that also. But yeah, both things. Obviously, if Prabhupada came and no one greeted him, that would be awkward. But after greeting, just sitting around and staring at him. I don't think that's what he wants either. Bhaktisiddhanta called that Dandavat Prabhus. Guru Maharaj! Dandavat. You know, but they basically weren't, kind of lazy, weren't doing much. You know, just their seva was Dandavat. Apparently showing a lot of devotion, but not doing anything. And there's that funny story. Prabhupada was in Vrindavan, and every morning he would go on his walk. There was one of our godbrothers. He would recite prayers from Bhagavatam, glorifying the spiritual masters. So Prabhupada would walk out and recite some shlokas. I just saw this godbrother in Vrindavan. He's, I think he's an incarnation of Madhu Mangal. He's funny. Funny. He doesn't try to be funny, but he's just funny. You know what I mean? Not comedian funny, but just he's just funny the way he is. So probably become Hamna Darshina Datta Dushtaram Nishti. You are the captain of the ship that desires to cross over the ocean. Probably some sloka. Then Prabhupada would go out for a walk. And one day, when Prabhupada was going out for his walk, he was seeing trash here and this water running and things, and he just started like, what's going on here? Why this is there, why that trash is swept in the corner, why this gate is not open, why the bell's not ringing every hour. It was just chastising. Then there was that devotee with his shlokas, So Prabhupada was in the Sringadev mood. And Prabhupada saw him, he goes, do something useful. Yeah, I was a Sankirtan devotee, and it was Friday. And Friday is like a big day, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, and the temple president said, I was in Los Angeles, and Prabhupada just had arrived in San Francisco, and the temple, it was like Thursday or something, not Friday yet. The temple president said, why don't we just fly up to San Francisco and spend time with Prabhupada? So we just flew up, and Prabhupada gave darshan, and we just walked in the room and just sat ourselves down. So sometimes, those are special times. Get that essential. Yes? But if you just sit around and don't do anything, it's like, what's the point?
But it seems that women have this tendency to. Men are more about doing most of them.
Yeah, but during Prabhupada's time, because we were so young, and he was so exalted, and we weren't. We were like that also. A lot of devotees would say that, just like being with Prabhupada. It's such an experience. Sometimes like devotees would say, initiation, they get the beads, and what are the principles? It's just like being in his presence was so awesome. Didn't know what to say. Okay? Happy? So, there's a parikram path that goes around Mayapur. And, it's about 3 hours or so, but we're going to go maybe an hour and a half tomorrow. So if you want to come, it's nice. It goes through the fields, a lot of mustard and rice fields. It's really beautiful.
Fields of gold.
Sands of mustard. Fields of mustard. Yeah, it's gold. So if you want to come, 5:15 outside the Panchatattva gate. And then we'll have class here tomorrow night. And then Thursday, Friday is Nityananda's appearance day. Some of you are going to Kanchakra. But Thursday night, we're planning to do kirtan on the Ganga. On a boat. That's how we do it on the Ganga. You don't have to walk on the Ganga. We're planning to do kirtan, so you're all invited. And then we'll have a little prasadam afterwards. We just have to finalize. Right? Who's working on that? You or Gandharvika?
Yeah, Gandharvika.
We get some. Last year we had noodle prasadam.
Yeah.
So you're all invited at 4:30. It was like 4:30 to 6. Tell the boat 4:30 to 6:30.
1:30 to 6:30.
We came back early last time. Or maybe we started late. Yeah. So, then we'll be there for the sunset. It's nice to be on during Kirtan. We did it last year twice. So you're all invited. And then you're going to go Saturday morning, Friday morning, right? At the chapel?
Yeah.
Right, so you can come. That would be nice for all of you. And then, Friday, it's an appearance day. So we'll be ecstatic. And then Friday night in the temple at 7:15 we have kirtan. So you're all invited. Well, you won't be here Friday night. Those of you who are here in the temple. After Sandhya Arti, we're doing kirtan.
You wanna sing?
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice to sing for the deities. I can tell you from personal experience. Well, the biggest crowd I ever sang for was 4,000. It's not huge, but it's something. But singing for the deities is better. Than singing for a big crowd, for sure. Okay. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.